Hello guys and welcome in that second tutorial about how to make a plant versus zombie game inside the Unity game engine. This time I'm gonna show you how to make a zombie spawner, and as you can see here you will be able now to make them spawn, and they will move to their path, and if they are colliding with a plant that you just placed, they will just stop to move. So this is what you will learn in this second tutorial. So let's go into it. Alright, so let's jump into the part 2 of that tutorial. So yeah, um, as I said, we have to create some spawner for the zombies. So what we're gonna do first is going into the canvas here. We're gonna create a new empty game object. We're gonna call it spawner, and don't forget to put it at 0, here. Inside that spawner we're gonna create one more empty game object, which we're gonna call it spawn point. And that spawn point will be right there because the zombies are spawning at that position. So I know that in the real game the view is focused more in the center of the screen like that, so we don't see the zombies spawning. But for that version, just to let you see what is happening, we're gonna let the background like that, so it's fine. So what we're gonna do here is duplicate that spawn point, but first let's create a prefab with that. So spawn point. So in case that we need to change the spawn point prefab, we will be able to do it there. So it's always better to have prefabs like that. So let's copy it, copy and paste, place another one there, same again. And the last one. Perfect. Now we need to create the behavior for the spawner. So in Plant vs Zombie, the way that it's working is that the level have some pre-spawned zombies. So for example, if they want in the level 1 to have that spawner to spawn a zombie first at a given time, and after that this spawner will spawn another zombie at another given time. So we need to have that ability to choose when we will spawn that zombie, what will be the type of zombie we will spawning, and on which spawner we will spawn it. So those are the kind of things that we need to have the ability to do. So to make that happen, first on the spawner we can create a spawner script. So let's create a new script here. Let's call it zombie spawner. So like that, I'm gonna double click on it. And we'll also need to create a new class for our zombie. So when we will create the list of zombies, we'll be able to just create a new object in the list that will contain all the things that a zombie need to be able to spawn in our spawner. So first, let's put the zombie spawner into the script folder. As you can see, the hierarchy of folder is a little bit different than the previous tutorial. I created a texture. Inside the texture folder, I created a card, object, and zombies folder. We have a little bit more zombies now, so we'll be able to have some variation of them. Also inside object, I put it like the pea shooter, the potato, the sun, and the sunflower, which are the basic the basic object of the game. So that we have card. In a real production, we would have make like only like the background of the card without any text on it, and put on top of it the image of the current object with a text to set the price of the card. But for that tutorial, we received those assets from a guy that is in our Discord channel. His name is Victim. He's a pretty nice guy. I can show you him there. So yeah, thanks a lot, Victim, for the amazing piece of art that you give us. So now what we're gonna do is create a new class. So like I said, inside the script folder, I'm gonna right click and create a new script. We're gonna call it zombie, only like zombie. So that class here will represent the zombie. We can delete the mono behavior, we don't need that. So here we can add all the things that we need to know for zombies. So let's go with a public int to be able to have at what time we want them to spawn. So let's call it spawn time. Another public int. No, sorry. This will be like the... Yeah, we can create an enum also for the zombie. So we can also create here a public enum that we can call zombie type. Let me just check with you a little bit, just to show you the how it's made. So Unity enum. So here you have a basic example of how to use an enum. So it's pretty straightforward. So the first object here is 0, this one is 1, 2, and 3. So it's not too hard. So the first one we can create like zombie basic, zombie cone, and zombie, that one will be the zombie with the bucket. So here we can create a public, a zombie type, and just call it zombie type. So just to show you how it will work, also we have to call them, we have to declare the class to be able to be shown into the inspector. We have to add something on top of the class. Again, we're gonna look at it. Show class and inspector. By the way, I'm using Google all the way when I'm programming, so it's very useful to always have it open. So this is the exact thing that we need to add on top. It's a realizable class. So just to test now, if we go in our spawner class, the script is no longer there. I don't know why. The associate script cannot be loaded. Please fix the compile error. We have a compile error somewhere. Anyway, let's just double click on it. Oh, is it because we have two? Wait a second. Zombie spawner. Zombie. Okay, I didn't create all those things in the right place. So just move them back here. Also put those things there, remove the mono behavior, and just put back here the mono behavior of that script because we need it, and put the serialized in the zombie class. Alright, I'm sorry about that. So now it should work here. Yeah, alright. zombie spawner, we can remove those two things, we don't need them, but we can now create a public list of zombie which will be zombies. And here we can open the list here and, for example, make 2 new zombies, and we can say that, and you can look, you can see that here we can add a spawn time and a zombie type here, which will be very useful for us. So now let's go with those things here. Let's say that the first one will spawn after 2 seconds, the second one will spawn after 3 seconds. It will be a zombie basic and a zombie cone. So to be able to spawn them, first we need to create some prefab of the zombies. So let's go and create a new image into the canvas. So create UI image. We can assign that image with the texture of the zombie. So let's put the first zombie here. We need to resize it to the size of the card, so 356 to 463, and just scale it down a little bit to fit in our scene. Maybe a little bit more, something like this. So I'm gonna create an empty game object. It will be called zombie basic. That will contain the visual of that guy here. Yeah, first I need to put it inside the canvas. I'm gonna just reset the values to put them at 0, 0. And put the zombie basic, put the image of the zombie basic into it. We can also reset the position here of the zombie and put now the zombie here. I'm doing that because I need to have the pivot of the zombie at the same place as the spawner. So if, for example, here I'm clicking on the spawner here, we can see that the pivot of the spawner is at the center, so we need to make the same thing work for the zombie. So if I'm putting the zombie in the first spawner, for example, and I'm resetting the position of the zombie, you can see that when he will move, he will be a little bit offset. So we can put the image a little bit higher. So now it's still at 0, 0, but he can walk on the path without going into the path on the bottom. You can even put it a little bit higher like that. Like if we're looking at the Plant vs Zombie game, you can see that they are a little bit on top of the other path, so that's fine. So yeah, I think that's gonna work. So this can be the first prefab for the zombie. So zombie basic. Now what we can do is create a new one. So instead of zombie basic, we can call it zombie cone. And we can go ahead and change the image of the cone, the image of the zombie by the one with a cone on it. So the guy that gave us those sprite made some difference into the size of the sprite. So we have to fix that manually. It's not a big problem. So the only thing that we need to do is just first resize it with the right size of the image, 395 by 568. And you can see that now it's having the proper size, so it's kind of the same. Just put it at 0, 0. Only 0 on X, and on the Y it's fine like that. So it's the exact same zombie but with a cone. So this one we can create a prefab now with it. Let's put it inside prefab, original prefab, and do now the same, copy paste the basic one, call it zombie bucket. Into the image, put the new zombie with the bucket on it, like that. Resize it with the proper size, 360 by 572. And I just look that it's having the same size. I think it's pretty good like that. And maybe put it back a little bit, just that they have the same exact position at start. Alright, so the bucket now can be a prefab. So let's drag and drop it into the prefab folder, make it an original prefab. Perfect. So now we know that they will spawn at the right place. So if, for example, I put the bucket one into the spawner number 4, you will see that he will go across that path perfectly. Same if I'm putting the cone into the spawner point number 2, no problem here. It's the 2 because we're starting with 0, obviously. So that's fine. So now we have our basic zombies. So we can now, into the spawner script, what we can have here is a reference to our zombies. So we can make a public list of game object. We can call it zombie prefab. Can go into the zombie prefab. We have 3 of them, and we can assign those prefab here. The cone is the number 2, and the bucket is the number 3. So now, as you can see, the enum is synchronized with the list. So the basic is the 0, the cone is the 1, and the bucket is the 2, same as we have there. So also we can add a boolean here to let know to the spawner if we want to have a random spawner to be associated with it, or we can associate a specific spawner. So right here we can put a public int spawner. So here we will just put the number of the spawner, or we can have also a public bool to make use spawner. Not use spawner, but more like random spawn. So that means that if we are ticking that boolean here, it will mean that we will spawn in a random spawner instead of using the specific spawner that we can put there. So let's say that here we are spawning in the spawner number, let's say 1, and this one like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say the 4. And we can add another zombie here that will spawn randomly, which will be the bucket zombie, and he will spawn after 5 seconds. So the data is now done. Now we need to make the behavior of the spawner in the script. So the spawner here, we're gonna create first an update function. Inside this update function, we're gonna look at the time and look if we need to spawn a zombie in that time in the list. So what we can do here is for each zombie in zombies. So we're gonna go through that list of zombie, and if one other thing that we can add here is add a public bool and add his spawn. That means that we can skip that one if he has been spawned already. So if zombie that is spawned equal false, and equals need 2 equals, sorry, equals false, and zombie that spawn time is greater than the time that time is starting when we are starting the game, so it's taking the exact same time as real life. So after 2 seconds, like it's gonna know the exact time, so it's gonna just increase forever until we stop the game. So that is working fine. So if that time is greater than that time, what we're gonna do is instantiate. Now we can look at our zombie prefab. So zombie prefab, into the bracket keys here, we can add the zombies that zombie type, and we can change that for an int. And we have to assign also a spawner to that zombie. So we know that there's a script here, the zombie spawner script is on the spawner, and all the other spawn points are child of this game object. That means that we can go through his child. So if I'm typing child, I think it's transform that child, it's get child, and the child number will be the spawner that we put it there. So we called it spawner. Sorry for the misspell here. So here we just have to put spawner like that. We can also make it his transform. So just like that, it's gonna take the zombie type and put it into the proper spawner. So just to be sure, spawner have 0, 0, 0, yeah, okay, so 2, 4, and 0, let's say that. Alright, spawn random is spawn. For now, the spawn random won't work. I'm gonna just look if it's working. Also, we have to assign to that zombie here that he is spawned. So his spawn is equal to true. So we won't spawn it again when we will look at the time. So let's go and press play and see if it's spawning properly. Right, okay. Like right now they are all spawned already. I can maybe add a debug here to look at the current time. So let's debug that log like that, and put that time into it. So we can visualize how the time work. And maybe not maximize the screen. So 0.1, 1, 2, 3, okay. Oh yeah, it's always greater than time, so it's not that. If it's smaller than time, smaller or equal, let's say that instead. Alright. Let's press play. So 1, 2, yeah. Like the zombies are now spawning. And this one is spawning there. So perfect. So now what we could do is make the zombies just go forward and reach their final position there. So to make that happen, what we can do is create a new script on the spawn point. We will assign them endpoint to reach, and when we will spawn the zombie, we're gonna look at the spawner and tell the zombie that this is his final destination. So let's go ahead and create that new script. We're gonna call it obviously spawn point. Double click on it here. Here we can make a public vector tree and make it final or just destination. Yeah, just destination like that. So now what we need to do is on each spawn point we need to set up his final destination. So here we can see that the Y is 193 and the Z would be minus 640. So minus 640. Let's do that. So the final destination is x will be the same for every spawn point, so we can set up all those things here. Oh yeah, first we need to add the spawn point component, so just copy it, select all the other spawner and just right click here and paste component as new. So now they all have the same values inside of it. So we just need to change the Y for the one of the spawn point. Like that. Alright, so now all the spawn point know the destination that the zombies need to reach. We will also have collision detection on the zombie, so if he is also crossing an obstacle into his path, he will stop there and attack that obstacle, and as soon as it's killed or it's destroyed, he will just go back to look at his destination and just continue to cross the path until he reach another obstacle or he reach the final destination. So that's perfect. And now what we need to do is add something into the zombies. We need to create a new script. So into the prefab zombie basic, we're gonna add a new script. Let's call it zombie controller. New script named zombie controller. Oh, and by the way, when you're creating a script like what I did here, it's gonna make them spawn into the asset folder. So you can just drag them into your script folder here. It's gonna be way easier to find your stuff after all. So the zombie controller script. So what we need here is to delete all those things. We can also create a public vector tree. Let's call it final destination on him, because he will probably have another destination if he find an obstacle. So what we're gonna do first is into the spawner. Let's go back into the spawner script here, zombie spawner. When we will spawn that zombie, we can first assign it to an empty variable. So let's go with game. Oh yeah, we can call it directly before the instantiation. So game object zombie instance it equal to that instantiation. So now we have a reference to that game object. So now we can just zombie instance that get component zombie controller, and we can assign his final destination to the spawner destination. So we already know how to get the spawner. So here we can just copy that and paste it there. And we can here get the component of that spawner, which is the spawn point. So spawn point here, and get his destination. So now we have that behavior properly done. If we are testing it here by pressing play, we will also see into the scene view that if I'm clicking on that zombie here, I can see that on the zombie my final destination is the one from the spawner. Same for that one here. Yeah, those one here are not already. I didn't add the script on those game objects, so I'm gonna do that right now. I can also go back into the zombie spawner and remove that debug.log. So the console will be a little bit cleaner. So now we have to go into the prefab, the zombie basic. We can copy that script here and paste it on those two game object prefab. Paste it as new, just like that. So if I'm going back to play, going in the scene view, clicking on this one here, the zombie, have the right final destination. Same for this guy, and same for that one. So that's cool. Another thing that we can add to the zombie controller is a public in for his health, and a public in for his damage. So for example, that one here, I'm not sure into the we can maybe look at those variables if they are somewhere into the internet. So plant versus zombie, zombie list. Maybe we'll have those statistics inside of that. Yeah, we have health of 200. So let's say that the normal zombie have health of 200 here. Can put that on my second screen. Trust me, I will put the right value. Health of 200. The one with a bucket have 1,300, which is a lot. The one with the cone have a 560. And for the damage, I don't see any damage here. I just know that they have a toughness value. So let's make our own damage value. So the basic will do 1 damage, the cone will be 2 damage, and the bucket will make 3 damage. They maybe have all the same damage, I'm not sure. So let's do it like that first. So alright, now into the zombie controller, what we need to do is trying to reach the final destination. So what we're gonna do here is set up, we can make a lerp actually to make that happen. So if we go into the Unity website again and we look at how to make a lerp happen, it's a vector3.lerp. So inside an update function, obviously, we need to create something like this. Is it that? Yes. Okay, start time, that's fine. Update vector3.lerp here, start marker position and marker position. So let's just go with something similar to that first. So his start marker position, this is his current position anyway, so let's go with transform that position. Sorry, I just cut the video and just start from there because we had some issue. So yeah, what we want to do to move the zombie is first I created a variable here which I called movement speed. So we're gonna, inside the update, we're gonna add a transform that translate. We can create a new vector tree with the movement speed multiplied by -1 since we are going left. This is in the x-axis. In the y and z we don't want to move anything. So yeah, I was having a final destination also there, so we don't need that final destination because we're gonna detect with the zombie all the obstacle into the path. So the obstacle will drive the zombie path at the end. So yeah, for now let's do it like that. So into the spawner, obviously we have to also delete when we was assigning that final destination there, so just delete that. And here, yeah, just with the translate, you can see that when I press play, the zombie is now moving with the speed that we set up here. So I added 0.04. The speed is pretty decent. I think it's similar to what the game has. We can even put it a little bit slower than that because I think it's even slower than that. Let's go with 35 instead of 4. So yes, I think it's more like this. Alright, now we need to detect when we collide with something. So let's say that we're colliding with a plant. So the plant game here need to have a collider. So what we need to do here is just add a new box collider 2D and set up the box collider 2D to fit with the box of not the box, but with the visual of the plant. So here we can increase the size, let's say 200 by 300. It's pretty decent. We can increase it a little bit more, 250 maybe, by 320. Yeah. Alright. So we have to also assign a new layer. So we need to create one and call it object, since the zombie will always attack all the object into his path. So by making that new layer called object, we can tell to the zombie to only detect that layer, and if he is crossing one of those objects, he will attack it. So he will stop his movement and attack. So now on the plant game object prefab, which is here, the plant game, we can assign the layer object. And we can also make it a trigger. So that's fine for the setup of the plant. So now we need to here detect if he is colliding, but first, to be able to collide with another collider, we need to assign to those zombies a rigid body. So rigid body 2D. We're gonna put them kinematic, and we also need to have a collider. So let's add a box collider 2D also to them. Since they are different, I need to make it separately. So where is my guy? Oh yeah, I don't see him because I'm not in the canvas. So I have just to put it inside a spawn point, just the time to set up the collider. Here we can press on this small icon here to make the collider appear. Let's say 100. It's maybe a little bit too much. Let's say 80 by 200. No, by 150. That's fine. I can make a small offset here into the x-axis of maybe 10, maybe 5, that's fine, and maybe 20. Okay. And maybe the height is not, it's not an obligation to be that high. Maybe this is a little bit better. And we don't want him to collide with other plants, so let's make it even smaller than that. I'm sorry. Let's go with 50. And no offset. So if the zombie here is moving like this, as soon as he is colliding here with a plant, he will attack it. I think that's fine like this. So we can maybe copy those values. So we can copy component here. Can first click on the zombie, overwrite, apply all. So the prefab will have this. The prefab is supposed to have that that change, but it seems like it's kind of strange. I don't know why it did that. Okay, now we see it properly. All right, good. So now we can just copy component and delete the basic and put the bucket one into the spawner and paste the value here, paste component value. And it seems to be good with this one also. So now we can apply all, override. It's fine. To the cone, I think if we paste the value here and we drag and drop it there just to look at it, I think it's fine also. So yeah, finally they have all the same values for the collision, which is great. So yeah, this is done. They all have the rigid body, so they can detect. And we can also make a layer for the zombie. We can make it a layer zombie and add that layer to those game object here. Not to the children, to this object only. So they all have that layer. So if we go to file, to edit, and we go to project setting, we can go into the physics 2D. We can see that the zombie here is colliding with all those things. So we don't want to collide with anything else than the object. So just remove everything except the object here. So now we need to detect the collision. So you can make a public void on collision enter 2D. What we need to do here is first make a public bool here, maybe a private bool. We're gonna make that boolean here to make stop the zombie if he is colliding with something. So that will be our first test. So the boolean could be is stopped. So we're gonna have to check here if is not stopped. We can do that. So if it's false, we're gonna continue to cross the path. So here, as soon as we enter with a collision, we're gonna have to check if that collision, that game object, that layer is equal to the collision layer, which is the one of the plant. If we look at the plant, the object is 10. So here we can add number 10. We're gonna just set the is stopped equal to true. So for now, let's just try it like that. Okay, so I made a mistake here. I was on collision enter, but actually the real function is on trigger enter 2D. So just change that by this one here. And I'm gonna just remove those debug log here to have the same as you have. So now if I'm firing up the play button here, you can see that when it's colliding with the plant now, the zombie will just stop, which is pretty cool. So in the next video I'm gonna show you how to make the zombie attack the plant and make the plant destroyed, and also make the plant attack. So having a little bit more of behavior done here for that. So yeah, so I hope that you liked that tutorial. Give me a like if you want more of those tutorial, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.